shade. I didn't even think of that. That just
I
came
love
out.
it. I love it.
Um,
She's so witty, everyone. I love it.
but yeah, so we always, what it really means is if we're triggered, that's a part of us that we're seeing out there in someone else or something else. So it's a part of an unresolved part of us, and it's a part of us we don't like to see that we've been keeping behind the shade. And and I noticed, and I really hope my daughter doesn't mind me sharing this, but what I've noticed is that I have passed on some traits to my daughter, and I've had a big realization this morning. So I went to her house yesterday and I looked, and I was there with her grandchildren. And I was just being observing them and how they were functioning, and I was seeing their beautiful home, and I was seeing how she runs her beautiful home, and I also realized that she's got a strategy that I have had my whole life, and that is that you hide your mess behind the cupboards, or you hide your mess behind a door, a room, and that's the messy room, or that's the so we still create the mess, but we hide it. And I she said, and she often says to me, "Oh, don't look in the something room, or don't look in the so and so room, or don't go in there," because she's got some shame around it. But I've always, and I've recognized that in her, but now I've really recognized, well, that's what I do. That's what I do. And one of my big realizations today was Oh, when you've got clutter, because I wrote this in a chapter that I wrote, a chapter in a book I wrote last year. When we have a lot of clutter around us, it's actually the sign of a cluttered mind. And chaos chaos that we've created is because we've got chaos going on in here. And it really helped me realize all those times when because I'm just going to say, she's the most beautiful, attractive, together looking being person. She presents as so together and just wow. And I'm not saying that I do that as well as her, but I can present that way. But behind the scenes, there's clutter and a bit of chaos. And I've lived a lot of my life with things going on behind the shades that other people haven't been seeing. And they've been looking at me, and that really supports exactly what I wanted to share with you today about how we mask. We learn to mask, and we learn to show the world who we want the world to see. And we hide this part of ourselves that we don't want them to see. And one of the biggest keys to know that we've got some work to do on ourselves is when we're triggered. And I've got three children, but my oldest one is the one that has led me to doing what I do. She's led me to that because I knew I was struggling to parent her and to meet her needs and give her what she needed. And and I can see she's still triggering me a bit. And then I thought, oh, more work to do. I've got some more work to do because I looked at her and I thought, oh, she's doing that. So am I. I'm still doing that to a degree, not anything like I used to, but still to a degree. So I'm still doing it. So that means to me, I've got some freaking work to do here to help myself function better because when we're masking, we're not functioning in what I describe as our thriving state. When we've got things that we uh, are dysfunctional and chaotic, that's survival state. That's when we're in our survival state. That's when our survival brain is on. That's when we're in our, what I describe as our fear thinking operational program instead of our clear thinking operational program. Does that make sense?
It does because it's a difference between thriving and surviving,
Oh, yeah.
right? You have some people that will say that, you know what, my life is good. And when they break down their life, they're literally only surviving, living paycheck to
Yep.
paycheck.
Yep.
They're one bad day from ending it all.
Yeah.
But because they're so used to that, they're looking at it as, you know what? Life is good. I'm here. I'm existing. Okay, fine, you exist. But are you
Battling through.
growing? You're battling
Battling
through,
through, I
right?
hear. We hear that a
Yeah.
lot here in Australia. Oh, battling through, getting through. Oh yeah, just getting, oh yeah, just getting by. Just this. It's survival mode.
Yeah. And I wonder at what point did the person start to accept that as their life, right? Like when you look at kids, like because you mentioned kids, and when you look at kids, they're running around and having the time of their life. Carefree. I remember one time I was driving someone to the hospital and these two children are running and they're having time, they're laughing, they're hitting each other, pushing each other like kids do, and one child fell to the ground and then all the adults are like, "Oh my God, what just happened?" Right? The
Uh-huh.
kids looked at each other, they started laughing, they got back up and started running again, right?
No.
Carefree. And I think we kind of lose that in a way because we just get so caught up in, I don't have time to feel happy when I'm knocked down because, oh my God, the bills. And when I knock down, woe is me. But one thing you mentioned that I want to touch on is that when you mention masks, I think a lot of people have that. And that's one of the reasons why I came up with the name Behind the Shades. Like, what is behind the shades of the person?
Yeah.
And I think people go out in public presenting an image that they want people to see them as.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the image that they have at home. That's the second
Mm-hmm.
mask. And then there's that mask that is hidden away that I don't want anyone to see that. It could be that, you know what? I have some insecurities. I have some
Mm-hmm.
trauma. I have some neglect. I have some
Mm-hmm.
doubt. I have some lack of confidence.
Mm.
So when you mention it, how devastating can it be to someone to realize that, oh my God, if someone were to find out that I'm actually pretending all this time, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Well, the way I see it is it's almost a realization of, well, who am I if I'm not that masked self version of myself? Who am I? Oh my God, I'm that person with all those issues. So we just, most of the time, well, what it does is we either crank it up and we work harder to mask it, or, and when there's shame around it, or we have a realization and we think, hang on a minute, I need to work on me because this isn't the real me. I don't want to be fake anymore. I don't want to mask myself anymore. I don't want to be that person pretending anymore. I want to rediscover who I really am, and I want to be my best self, show up as the best version of myself and start living that child spirit again. See, I've told my grandchildren, it's so funny. They have all these toys and things, cute little things, and I go, oh my God, I want a squishy toy. Oh my God, I want one of those. And I say this to them, and I say, you know what I really want? I told my one of my granddaughters, she's 11 now, and I told her this a few years ago. I said, you know what I really want? I just want to be a kid again. And she goes, do you want to be a kid again, Nana? And I said, yeah. I said, and hey, I said, for my birthday, can you just tell your mum all I want is one of those, because she had those poppet fidget things. And I said, one of those and one of those squishy things. And I want that. And I just want some kid stuff. I said, can you do that? Can you tell her that? And I said, let's just be kids. Let's just muck about like kids. And she she's told her mum about 10 times, Nana just wants to be a kid again. So can she come over and play on the tramp? Or can she come over and do this? And it's so cool because I shut down so much of my child's self trying to be sensible and trying to I didn't have to lose being responsible. You can have fun and be responsible. It's
Why do
just,
you think so many of us give up that innocence, that playful nature, childlike behavior as we get older?
well, we're told, well, that's not on. You can't do that. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. And we're shaped by our environment around us that tells us, no, you need to wear that. You need to speak like this. You need to. And so we start conforming and molding ourselves according to what others have told us who we need to be, which is, can I share a model with you? So this is what I have created. So these are the external influences that develop our self-concept or our identity. Can you see that? Yeah. So we this is who we come into the world pure, complete, innocent, like you said, free-spirited, trusting. We've got no reason not to trust. No one's given us a reason not to trust, or things to worry about, or things to limit, reasons to limit ourselves, limiting beliefs, limit ourselves. But then we we are surrounded by family members, friends, our culture, and that's huge. Like that could be anything from religion to social media to school to anything. Your nationality, it can be anything. And then we've got events that have happened to us in our lives. And then we form a belief system based on what people have told us, and then we've decided, oh, I better do that. Oh, that's true. Oh, this is true. And we make all these decisions about life, about who we need to be and who we need to show up as, according to what all of this has told us. Does that make sense?
It does, and I love that because I'm looking at the Friends one, and I think that one, in a lot of ways, maybe even more so these days, has more of an impact on the family as you put it there. And I would say that is probably neck and neck, if not higher than culture, because sometimes we put ourselves in situations where our friends would isolate us away from the two other things that you mentioned, right? One could be family, one could be culture. I look at, let's say, friends who are always in some type of drama or who are toxic,
Yeah.
right? It's a one person mentioned that some people are so deep in the toxicity of their friends that it's like cult like. You can't
Yeah.
leave us. Stay with us. If you
Mm-hmm.
try to be something else, you're like shamed. You're like
Mm-hmm.
made fun of. Like one example that I shared with that person was when you unite through a dislike or hatred of something, you can get as many people as possible as quickly as possible, but it's temporary because once you stop hating that thing, you're no longer united.
Yeah.
Versus like love, right? Love will connect you for 10, 20, 30 years, which is why when you have a very healthy and loving marriage, it can last forever.
Yeah.
So in that example, we're sharing that when you have friends who influence you negatively, and because let's say you're united in a dislike of something, when you start to heal yourself, as you mentioned, when you start to fix yourself, now you're not a part of them anymore because what united you is no longer a part of your life,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So
Because I mean, the changing of our self-concept to fit in with all of this is the creation of a false identity. And and when we begin to realize that that's not who I really am, and maybe these people, I'm going to question what they've taught me and what they've told me to believe. When we begin to question that, then we have more power to choose who we want to have in our circle, who we want to have in our ecosystem. Does that make
how,
sense? Because
yeah,
otherwise,
how can we
we're
start
just,
questioning that?
yeah, well, cool. So I guess we start questioning that. I guess we've got to have a realization that the way we're functioning is not who we want to be.
Oh, Sue, that can be tough. Some people don't realize that until many years while they're in it.
Yeah, I agree. But then some people don't want to change. So we some people aren't open to change because here's the thing, the survival operating system, its biggest threat is change. So our amygdala and our survival brain, it doesn't, it would love to just wrap you and I in bubble tape, bubble wrap, and just stick us in a corner and never move. Because otherwise because that keeps the amygdala in control and it also keeps us safe from danger. But the reality of it is we don't get to grow, we don't get to enjoy life, we're completely contracted and we have an awful, miserable life. But the amygdala's job isn't to keep us happy, it's to keep us safe from danger. So it thinks change is too risky because there could be an unknown out there and something could happen. Something wrong could happen. So don't change. Don't change who you are. Let's just keep everything the same and then it all feels safe. So that's how the very primal, primitive amygdala functions. So it's threatened by change. So the minute we think, oh, I need to change that, the amygdala, if you want to know why we never change our habits, even though we've got habits that we don't like, because the amygdala comes in and it goes, don't you dare change. You must stay the familiar way because then I'm in charge and I'm keeping you safe from danger. Because if you change, that's too risky. That's what the amygdala thinks. It doesn't have any ability to know what's good for you. It's like the smoke alarm that's just a thing, an object, and all it can do is alarm if there's burnt toast or a house fire. The smoke alarm can't make you happy and can't differentiate between the burnt toast or a house fire. It has no ability to differentiate. That's up to us now. That's when we put on our switch on our smart brain and we go, hang on, is the house on fire or has my husband or daughter burnt the toast? Which is it? And that's when we switch on our smart brain. But it's so most people don't even know that. They don't even know that changing is a threat to their survival operating system. And that's why they don't want to change. They don't feel like they want to change, but intellectually, they might want to change. But their bodies, the amygdala is just pumping adrenaline, making you feel like you're in fear, in survival mode. It's going to pump out all the hormones to make you feel that intensely, so resistant to changing that you'll come up with every excuse under the world not to change. And you'll justify all of this away. We become so that masked self of ours, or that created self, justifies our way around not changing.
So
So then,
let me ask you a question then, Sue, because you mentioned something very good. If we want the change on a intellectual level and something is preventing us from changing, then why do we ask others to change when we know deep down is something that we will struggle with?
well, that's it. So we're wanting others to change. Well, there can be two reasons why. I mean, one of them is because they're triggering us and exposing things in us that we wish either we had done or that we could change in ourselves. And then the other one is sometimes when you've done the work, you can see what's going on now because you've experienced it yourself and you've come out the other end and you just want to help that person because you can see why they're stuck. But so that from our point of view, I suppose, if you're well in this journey, you can see it in them, can't you? And you just want them to wake up and realize what can happen, how their life can be so much better, but they can't see it. So I guess our job there, and still learning this, is to help people see a new perspective so that they can get out of their survival brain functioning. Because when we're in fear, we do have foggy vision. We are looking at life from a survival point of view, and we can't think clearly. I call it fear thinking and clear thinking, because we actually can't think clearly and rationally. So we just make survival-based decisions, and we block what, even though intellectually or ideally we want something, we don't have the programming to get us there. We're still in survival programming. And unless someone can help people understand that as long as you're stuck in survival programming, you actually